so much for joining us for what we hope will be a very interesting concert. We're so grateful to the South Asian Arts UK organisation for making this collaboration with Leeds Leader happen. And I'm going to talk a little bit throughout the evening about the various pieces, a bit about the poetry, a bit about the music, but more than anything else, sort of about the idea of this project and this programme and why it's such an interesting thing to do in this space. The programme is essentially a celebration of the ways in which Indian classical culture and Indian literature have become part of what we think of as the song repertoire. So music written for voice and piano by, yes, European composers, but also composers in other parts of the world. And for the purposes of this evening, it's Indian composers based in America, and white British composers. They're all setting Indian poetry, and not only in English translation, but in original Hindi, in Sanskrit sometimes, and this evening the world premiere of a piece in Punjabi by Cheryl Frances-Hoad. To open this concert, we've chosen a song by Kamala Sankaram, an Indian-American composer who writes in a musical language which is it is a fusion of Western classical influences and Hindustani North Indian influences. Of course, here we are at the Sikh Centre in Leeds, and so it was really important this programme focused specifically on the relationship between Sikh culture and song. And this opening piece, The Far Shore, is a setting of a poem by Mirabai. Mirabai was a 16th century Hindu saint. She was a Bhakti saint, a follower of the Bhakti tradition of Hinduism, which Bhakti means devotion in Sanskrit, and the Bhakti movement advocates for the idea that salvation is found through devotion, through love. It's not done through attending temple or making sacrifices, it's done through an intimate relationship of love between you and God. Mirabai is sort of a really fine example of a Bhakti saint. She devoted her life to Krishna, and she got married to another man, but she regarded Krishna as her husband, and according to some legends, this so outraged her actual in-laws that they tried to poison her. We don't know if that's true, but it goes some way in suggesting how strong her devotion or her bhakti was. But what does this have to do with Sikh culture? How does a Hindu saint and a Hindu poet have anything to do with Sikhism? Well, although Mirabai never went to Punjab, we know that she lived her life in three parts of India, in Gujarat, in Rajasthan, and in Vraj. Vraj, in the centre of Vraj, is the home of Krishna, Mathura, where he was born, and Vrindavan, where he grew up. However, the earliest account we have of Mirabai's life is from a Gurumukhi, a Sikh writing script source dated from the time of Guru Gobind Singh, found in Punjab. Guru Gobind Singh, for those of you who don't know, is the last living Sikh guru before the Guru Granth Sahib. And Mirabai's poetry was actually included in a collection of poems called the Prem Ambod, or the Ocean of Love. It was a collection of poetry about saints who had dedicated their life to this kind of tradition of loving God. And Mirabai's poetry was actually included as well in the original version of the Guru Granth Sahib. Before the Granth Sahib attained its final canonized form, some of her lyrics were included in earlier, say, drafts of the Guru Granth Sahib. They were eventually excised, but it's clear that Mirabai's poetry, her ideas and her philosophy were in circulation during the time of Guru Gobind Singh. This song, The Far Shore, is sort of Mirabai saying that she can't wait for what happens after life. She says that this life waxes and wanes, it does not last long. But, and at the word but, you'll hear this amazing shift of raga, the whole harmonic world turns on the word but. She says, behold the ocean of rebirth. And then she asks God, the pilot of my soul, to swiftly guide my ship to the far shore. In many ways, this recital is all about the far shore. It's about bringing a culture which seems distant and far away into the heart of the song recital in this century, and showing us all, in a really inspiring way, I hope, that things which we appear to be far away from us culturally can actually be brought very, very close to home and can become part of what we think of as our song and poetic repertoire. So I hope you enjoyed the concert, and please welcome Nina Kanter to sing The Far Shore. This program sort of has two big chunks in it. Perhaps the most exciting chunk is this world premiere by Cheryl Frances-Hoad that's coming up later. But a kind of parallel to it is another kind of collection of songs by a white British composer setting Indian poetry. And these are three songs by Frank Bridge, a composer whose life spanned the late 19th and first part of the 20th century. And he's setting the poetry of Rabindranath Tagore, who was a Bengali poet, playwright, social reformer. he was a real polymath. In fact, he was the first non-European to win the Nobel Prize for Literature, and he wrote on a wide range of topics, including writing poems and stories on Sikh saints and gurus. These poems are not those. These are from a collection of love poems that Tagore wrote. Originally, these are his own English words. Tagore's other really important contribution to this program is that he was the first poet to translate the works of Kabir, another Bhakti poet, into English. And so he allowed Kabir's poetry to become part of the kind of the European consciousness in the 20th century, and we're going to hear some of Kabir's writing later. These Tagore settings are from the mid-1920s. Frank Bridges' musical language underwent a lot of stylistic fluctuations over the course of his career. There was lots of kind of heavy romanticism in his early music. Around the time of the First World War, he began to be influenced more by kind of modernist tendencies. And after the war, you get some really extreme kind of post-tonal language. These three songs are kind of very much in that vein. To me, they are reminiscent of the kinds of songs we encounter in early Schoenberg and early Berg. They're very, very heady and very perfumed in their harmonic language. They're very dense texturally. They are three love poems. You can sort of play them in any order, and the order we've chosen treats them essentially as three separate love stories. In the first, you have a character. Now I have to remember what the first one is, of course. Yes, Speak to Me, My Love. The first one, somebody's asking, they are face to face with their beloved and saying, you've sung all this stuff to me before, but speak to me the words that you sang. These are two people that are not quite on the same page yet, and one is asking the other to be clearer about their intentions. The second, Dweller in My Deathless Dreams, whatever relationship there was is kind of over, I guess, and now the object of affection exists only in the world of sleep. And the final song, Day After Day, is a rather sad song in which somebody who loves somebody else is lamenting the fact that the other person comes into their lives and then keeps going again. These are extremely heavy songs in some way, but they provide a kind of interesting stylistic and musical juxtaposition to the other music in this program. So these are the three songs of Tagore by Frank Bridge.
The stars are lost in clouds. The wind is sighing through the leaves. I still and silent. Only the trees will whisper in the dark. The night will pale, the day will dawn. We shall look at each other's eyes and go on a different path. Speak, speak to If he asks who was it that sent it, I entreat you, do not tell him my name. For he only comes and goes away. He sits on the dust under the tree. Spread their seed with flowers and leaves, my friend. His eyes are sad, and they bring sadness to my heart. He does not speak what he has in mind. He only comes and goes away.
So we now move to a pair of songs which set the poetry of another Bhakti Hindu saint, perhaps even more famous, called Kabir. Kabir was a 15th century Indian poet, so he's in the century before Mirabai. And he was also, a Bhakti saint. He was a follower of this path of devotion. But unlike Mirabai, his poetry actually did end up in the Guru Granth Sahib. For those of you who don't know, the Guru Granth Sahib's kind of construction, as well as having the teachings of gurus of the Sikh lineage, it also contains teachings in the form of poems, like small couplets by what are called bhagats, or devotees, basically. And among these bhagats is Kabir. And actually, of all the non-Sikh bhagats to be represented in the Guru Granth Sahib, Kabir is the most well represented. His poetry there's a lot of it in the Guru Granth Sahib. Some scholars think, in fact, that Guru Nanak, the first Sikh guru, was influenced by Kabir's writing. It's hard to say, of course, the amount of source material it's not very much. But there is a tradition of 17th and 18th century paintings in which you can see Guru Nanak and Kabir sitting together. So this is not a new idea that these two figures are somehow culturally linked. The two songs you're about to hear, the first, Dheere Dheere, it's a song by Reena Esmail, an Indian-American composer who was trained in a Western classical style, but who also traveled to India to study Hindustani music, so North Indian classical music. Dheere Dheere is sung in Hindi, and Reena said that she was inspired very heavily and very strongly by Kabir's very pithy way of dealing with very big themes or big emotions in small couplets, which I suppose is not unlike the Proverbs we're going to hear later, this idea of kind of capturing huge emotions in very, very short lines of poetry. Unlike Mirabai, who was sort of very eager to get on with getting to that far shore, in this poem, Kabir is advocating for patience. He says, "Little by little, dear mind, gradually everything will come to be. The gardener can water 100 times, but the fruit only comes in spring." The second song by John Harbison is also about time. It's called The Flute of Interior Time, and it's about the way in which we experience the passage of time when we're in love. The poet Kabir, again in an English translation this time, says that the flute of interior time is played whether we hear it or not. What we mean by love is the sound of time coming into our bodies. When love hits the farthest edge of excess, it reaches wisdom. So these are two Kabir settings, Rina Esma and John Harbison.
flute of interior time is played, whether we hear it or not. What we mean by love is its sound coming in, where love hits the farthest edge of excess, it reaches a wisdom. And the fragrance of that knowledge. It penetrates our thick bodies, it goes through walls, its network of notes has a structure as if a million suns were arranged inside. This tune has truth in it. Where else have you heard a sound like this?
So now it's time for the most exciting part of the evening, which is Cheryl Frances-Hoad, who has selected some Punjabi proverbs and set them as a cycle for two singers and piano. And we're really happy that Cheryl can be here today, and she's going to say a few words about her piece. So, Cheryl Frances-Hoad.
So this is a real challenge for me and a real sort of brain gym because I've never set Punjabi before. And when I compose, usually if I'm setting an English text, I will sing it. I will improvise it and sing it whilst I play the piano. But the really interesting thing was I wasn't able to reproduce the Punjabi myself because it's so foreign to me. So I was forever listening, and I'm so grateful to Karanjeet for helping me, for sending me recordings that her friends had done of these texts for me. So I could listen and then try and set them, listen and try and set them over and over again. I struggled also to find a text, and I eventually happened on these Punjabi proverbs, which I found on Twitter. So I originally had a list of maybe 70, and then I whittled it down, and I tried to make them into poems that to me has a sort of narrative over the whole song cycle. And because they're very short, that's another challenge, to be able to create long musical lines. And so I gathered them, I rearranged them, I cut them out, and I eventually got down to about 35, I think. And I mean, should I read them, do you think? Sure. Yeah. As they're very short, I will read them to you. So, number 1. You will get there, provided you start. Expectations lead to disappointment. Be good, and people will be good to you. Be bad, and expect the same. A friend is one who speaks truth to your face. Hope keeps you alive. Number 2. You can't make yourself fall in love. Fall in love, embrace restlessness. It's love if you sustain it, lust otherwise. Number 3, I had real fun with this one. All talk and no action. Got nothing to show for it but boasting all the time. What's closer, God or my punch? Not my circus, not my monkeys. Fallen off the roof, but pissed at the courtyard. Nobody welcomes an arrogant bastard. Number 4. The rich are restless. The poor sleep peacefully. It's the same God that everyone looks up to. Number 5. Some things are best done in their proper time. You'll sing and you'll cry. That is human. Number 6. Loneliness is the cause of 100 issues. Hope keeps you alive. Number 7. Got no money but want to go shopping, hey? Money works for those who own it. Only the rich get richer. A rich woman's boy can play. Number 8. Every woman wears anklets, but only some can make them tinkle. Hope keeps you alive. And finally, east or west, home is best, and hope keeps you alive.
कोई बल्ले करनी बल्ले बल्ले
रब ने दिली कसन
जिदी बंदरी ओही नचावे
te poi velo nale ruspai
आकर फूट फिटे में baleni dela, cardi mela mela.
Esa oda, jide pali,
Rabbe vi beriano I berdane.
esse validai, balkede.
Baleni dela, cardi mela mela.
Esa oda, jide pali, jide pali.
We have one final piece for this evening, and it's another piece by Rina Esmail, this composer we heard earlier in Dida Dida. As I said, Rina studied both in America, like in a Western classical style at the Juilliard School and at Yale, and then she got a Fulbright scholarship to go to India, where she studied Hindustani music. And because of that education, or through that education, she has found a musical language which unites the various parts of her identity and her musical interests. And she's written a 7-movement cantata for voices and orchestra called This Love Between Us, And the 7 movements of the piece, each is kind of focused on a different religion from India. So there is a movement for Zoroastrianism, there's a movement for Hinduism, a movement for Sikhism, a movement for Christianity, a movement for Islam, etc. And one of those movements is another setting of Kabir. And in a way, it's kind of the perfect conclusion to this program, because the movement itself, this Kabir poem, is called This Love Between Us. And it's all about the unity that 2 different people find in one moment. Rena put it really nicely, and I'm just going to read the little bit that she herself wrote about this piece. She said that, first of all, there is an interplay of musical styles. So there's a combination of Western classical harmony and North Indian classical harmony, and you'll hear that the text is actually sung simultaneously in Hindi and English. So the singers take it in turn to sing the Hindi text while the other sings the English translation, and then they switch. So you hear this kind of unity of plurality, I suppose, that these 2 things coming together linguistically and musically. But more than that, she says, even more than uniting musical practices, this piece unites people from 2 different musical traditions. Each musician is asked to keep one hand firmly rooted in their own tradition and training, while reaching the other hand outward to greet another musical culture. This project has been so inspiring because it has kind of drawn back the curtain on an enormous body of repertoire which I suppose not all of us know exists, and if we do know that it exists, we don't necessarily think that it is part of what we think of as lead or song. I'm really grateful to Joseph Middleton for having this idea of a collaboration with the Sikh Centre and with South Asian Arts, because it gave me the spark for this idea to do something which unites us all. And I suppose that's what song is so good at. In a kind of climate where there is so much polarization, perhaps song can be the place where we find that there is actually love between us. That's super cheesy, but actually I think it is true. So we'll leave you with this. This is This Love Between Us by Rina Esmail.
This love between us, this love between us. This love was born from the first humans. This love between us. This love between it cannot as the finds its way into the ocean.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. God, it's so bright with those lights there. Wow, I am so moved by what we've just heard, and I'd like to start off by just saying a massive thank you to you. We are so lucky to have as friends SAR UK, so thank you for all you've done and all that your team has done as well. I think we can all agree that song is such a remarkable art form that it can do what we've just heard. I feel so moved by what we've just heard. Cheryl, your songs are extraordinary, full of wit, pithy, as always. Thank you so much for all of the love and care that you've poured into those. And to the artists as well, who have obviously gone to get a drink. I'd love to thank them so much as well. So much care has gone into to being able to put together such a thoughtful programme as we've just heard. Concerts that involve food are always a massive thumbs up from me. So I was really thrilled when I was advised by you that we should definitely have food. We'd love to see all of you for a chat now, and please do join us for some food at the back of the hall.
Lovely, and I'd like likewise to thank Joseph. We've been in conversation for many years, thinking how do when you have art and creativity, that actually is the human spirit that matters the most. And actually opportunities like this sometimes help us to push our boundaries of the norm. So there are people in here that I know will perhaps never have heard music in this particular way, but then there are others who often come to concerts that we do, which may not have ever heard Indian classical music the way that we do it. So I think opportunities like this are really, really important. Important for us to come together, important for us to exchange, bring about a confluence which gives us a new expression. I always refer to music as the vanilla essence of life, because life would just not have the smell, the experience that actually touches the soul. So it's food for the soul. But being Punjabis and the people that we are, and I'm a Sikh in sort of my birth. And Sikh means to learn, which means forever learning, being always open to the possibilities. So I think this is why, in a way, I stepped in and said, okay, let's support what you're doing and let's do it here. So thanks again to the Sikh Centre for hosting it and agreeing to hold this particular concert. But then that Punjabi side was like, you don't get people in a space unless you have food.
Excellent idea.
Known for food. So yes, please do join us and have a snack of vegetarian food provided by KC Catering, who's our Rani auntie who always provides our food for us. So hope you enjoy. And thank you so much for coming and enjoying. And the special effects in the storm I thought were really good.
Yeah.
I didn't